Hey guys, welcome to Real Love Scenario. Shout out to all our real lovers
Hi,
out there.
everybody.
We are back with another episode.
So happy to be here.
So happy to be here. It's winter time.
Do I look old doing this?
Old?
Do it like it does, right? All right, let me stop.
Nah, that's nostalgic.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I feel like that's where your age shows in the dance moves.
Dance moves, the cliches and sayings that you use shows your age as well. How you get up. Ooh. How you get up and how you sit down.
Okay.
All shows your age.
Working on it. Okay, sorry.
What
I
you
just
eat
felt old.
shows your age.
That's true.
Nah, I can't do that. When you young, anything. You don't care about the consequences.
Is this real milk? Can't have
You older, you like, nah, I ain't got time to be. My stomach, nah. Ain't got time.
That's going to have me up all night.
Old saying.
Old sayings.
Old saying.
Yes. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. I just felt like I was looking old when I was doing that little dance.
No, you good. You good. You good. We're back here another week in the wintertime. It is January.
Yes. Chilly. Very chilly. And I'm over it already. I can only stomach like a good, we're not even in the coldest part yet. I can't. I can only stomach like 4 weeks of winter and I want it to be gone. Hate
4
it.
weeks.
Yeah, I hate it.
I mean, I don't dislike it. I can do winter with no wind. Like if it's cold, I'm fine with cold.
Okay.
Bundle up, hat, gloves, and then I like walking. And then if you walk when it's cold, ain't nobody there. It's like it's cool for me. Even when I was on the cruise, like when we got back to the East Coast, like this area, well near here, it was cold, but I was still sitting outside, not like without a shirt on or anything, but like just watching the water and just I wasn't like cold and there wasn't really anybody out there. I'm fine with that. When you add wind, that's what makes cold unbearable.
Yes.
Like, nah, bro, I can't do this.
Yeah, I like it in the fantasy way, like the postcard way. Like I like to go experience
Winter Wonderland
and come out of it. Like I really enjoyed winter when I went to Colorado. I went to Denver and Vail.
Yeah.
I loved that trip so much because I got to go and come out. Like I'm good. Thank you. That was fun for a weekend.
That's probably why winter clothes are better than summer clothes, just because they want to give you some type of like, motivation and protection from it. Because like jackets, peacoats, furs, like fly.
Yeah. Now I love it from a fashion perspective, but I feel like I could still have that on in fall too. Like I'll wear fur in fall.
Okay.
Yes, but keep the snow and the brisk wind that Dre just referred to. I don't need to be somewhere like so cold in here. Like I don't like that feeling.
Sitting in your car.
Yep. Yeah. Like God damn. Yep.
Rubbing your hands together.
I'm good on it.
Oh man.
I'm good on it. So let's get this winter season up out of here.
For sure. Speaking of winter, make sure you come to our event February 29th. We'll be getting more details or sending you more details, but make sure you just look at the site, look at the social media, and we'll be announcing it soon, just about what we're doing on that date.
February 29th. Save the date.
Live podcast.
Save the
in
date.
The DMV. Sorry, Tiffany. Who I know she said in Florida.
She in Florida.
Yeah, she in Florida.
We coming, Tiffany. Just give us some time.
We sorry.
We give us some time. And hopefully maybe you got some new PTO this year. Take a weekend. Come up with us. Come hang out with us.
For sure.
It'll be worth it.
So let's get to our real lover review.
My favorite part of the show.
Yes. Welcome back to all of our real lovers. If you're new here, welcome. You want to join the gang? Like, subscribe, share.
Easy peasy.
If you listen to this episode, you love it, write a review. And then we'll read it on the show, just like we're about to do now. But not a real lover gang is real. Like, we good. We
really
see
a
each other.
gang.
It's really a gang.
It's love.
RL, for sure. I don't know where I was about to go with that. But this review is from Yomi, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think so.
And this is via email. The email says, "Greetings from Accra," which is in Ghana. I started
Hey.
listening to your show when I started dating an African American man, and due to the cultural differences, we were having issues. Your analysis of different love scenarios helped with understanding this man and how he presented himself in our relationship. Eventually, he showed himself and left, which is all good as we did not have the same life values. I still love listening to your discussions as it's educational and entertaining. Continue the good work and cheers.
Thank
We
you.
got international listeners.
Love an international real lover. We appreciate you, Yomi. And I love that she said, like, it didn't work out and that's okay because we just
Yeah.
didn't have the same life values. I sometimes it's just like
I
that.
love hearing that. That means you were intentional. You thought it out, thought about what you wanted. You guys evaluated it and just saw that there was an alignment on what you guys ultimately want, which is fine.
Yeah. Yeah, that it happens. So keep listening. We're so happy that you're staying tuned in and sending you good vibes for new love.
For
Yeah,
sure.
it'll happen.
And I would love one day to hear from your perspective what your thoughts are on dating African American men.
I mean, that's the only experience I have. So,
I want to hear Yomi's thoughts
oh yes,
based off of being,
yes, being African, not
Yeah.
African American. Yes, that would be very interesting. Yomi, go. Will you send us that email? Send us the real love scenario for what happened
Yeah,
here.
tell us what happened.
Yeah, we would love to know. We would love to know.
All right. Are you ready to hop into our real life love scenario?
Let's go.
Okay, so we're talking about Rachel Lindsay, who was the first black bachelorette. And she is getting a divorce from her husband, Brian Abasolo.
Sounds right to me.
But he filed for divorce and is requesting spousal support after 4 years of marriage. He claims that the two have been living separately since December 31st, 2023, and cited irreconcilable differences as the reason for the split. So my question, we haven't really talked about spousal support, prenups, and things like that on this show quite yet. So my thoughts for you is, first, what are your thoughts on men asking for spousal support from the women that they were married to? And then what's your perspectives or thoughts on prenups?
So as much as viscerally I want to feel like he's a man, he shouldn't be asking for no money. Literally, spousal support has nothing to do with gender. And I know that spousal support usually is petitioned by the person who earns the least amount of money in the marriage.
Yes.
Either earns the least or they don't earn at all. So they're basically saying that they need financial support to support them as they go through this transition with the divorce and going from a two income household, or one income household where they were benefiting from that, to now having to sustain on their own. So it's one of those things where if I'm being sensible and understanding the law, because that's what matters in this situation, not my feelings, not my dynamics around, oh, he's a man, he shouldn't need money to get on his feet. It's just simply not true. If you marry someone and you were more financially, you were taking on more financial responsibilities in the relationship, it is an option that the law allows for. And women don't usually have an issue when the woman is doing it.
Yes.
Like it's very accepted and understood that, like, well, he was so and so of course he needs to pay her for her to have her lifestyle. I do, though. So my one little boop about it is I kind of feel like if through the marriage you did not do anything to have your own, even if that just simply includes saving some of the money that you had access to, like you might have an allowance, because I know a lot of couples that are like this where they have an allowance. They get $20,000 a month to spend on whatever they find necessary. And that is usually not for anything household related. So that's like shopping, leisure. Yeah, you
not
get
20,000, but yeah,
you get a certain amount of money to spend every month. If you only were spending $10,000 and then like you really only needed to spend 10, but then you would just blow into the max of your allowance and you weren't ever like putting some aside. And I know people might think that sounds like you're planning for divorce, but it's just you're planning for a difficulty financially. That could be divorce, that could be anything. If you weren't doing that, I think you should go back to the life that you had before you met me. I just think that unless there are children involved and you are now going to be the primary custodian of those children.
So what's your thoughts on prenups?
I think they're great, and I think most people should get them. I do. I think, like we talked about on our last episode, it's a part of the mechanics of a relationship in my mind that we should talk all of this out. What's going to happen when we get to that line? If we get to that line of divorce, we should have it laid out on what will happen and what won't happen. We should talk about it. And prenups are whatever you make them to be. It's simply an agreement that you have before nuptials. That's what prenuptial agreement means. The terms of it are about what the two of you want. You all get to decide what that looks like. Some people's prenups automatically include payouts after a certain number of years. Some of them are tagged to behaviors. Like if we get a divorce because of infidelity, I want $2 million. But if we get a divorce just because it was irreconcilable differences, there was no infidelity, I don't want anything, or I want $100,000. You know, like you can make it whatever you want. One of, I think, the most comprehensive ones that I've seen or heard of is Beyonce and Jay-Z's prenuptial. Like there are lots of stipulations, even down to like how much she would get per child born in the marriage if they get divorced. Like she gets a set amount of money just for bearing the child should they get divorced. So child could be 23 by the time y'all get divorced. She would get like $5 or $10 million per kid just because she had 3 within the marriage. So they can be whatever you want them to be. And I think they protect you from having to go through and deal with all of this on the back end at a point where you all really might not even like each other anymore. So I think they should happen all day. I will say prenups don't necessarily stop spousal support or the request of it. They don't, not always. So I think they should do them. I don't know. Sounds like they didn't have one, but realistically, if he can petition for spousal support, that means that he made less than her. That means that he earned less than her, and her income as an attorney and a media personality likely sustained their lifestyle more than his career as a chiropractor.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. So what do you think about it? Do you think it makes him less of a man to ask his soon-to-be ex-wife for spousal support?
No, not less of a man. I think it reminds me of like, and this is kind of way off, but kind of similar. It's like, don't you remember when OJ happened? That whole thing, the OJ verdict?
Yeah.
That I feel like the feeling from what I heard around that time is that black folks was like, we know he did it. But it's just been so many situations to where we didn't do something and we got sent to jail that, you know what? It's nice to see a brother just get off one time. You know, that was like,
yes.
I heard a lot of people during that time. That was the feeling. It's like, yeah, we know. I mean,
look, a win is a win.
Yeah, but hey, we get unfairly, poorly, whatever every time. So I'm not gonna say I feel the same way about this, but I see some men take it to the shed sometimes with situations where it's like, dang, like really, like that much, crazy. Mm-hmm. Hey, brother, if you're in a position where you know you the opposite way and the law works how it works, and you are entitled to that, hey, go ahead, get it if that's the case. And that's what you do. But I don't think it makes you less of a man or anything. But I think that it reminds me of like, I mean, the marriage is enforced by the government, and it's a government, it operates as government would. And how government operates is if government wants you to do something, it does 2 things. Either it taxes the action that it doesn't want you to do, or it incentivizes the action that it does want you to do. So in this case, I say that because the point of getting married is to stay married. So government will tax you if you decide that you don't want to stay married anymore. There are things that come from that. There's not just a clean break a lot of times when you're like, I don't want to get married no more. You sign the paper, filed it with the government, there's going to be some stipulations or some, unless you guys can work it out yourself, there's going to be things even like waiting a year to be separated. Like there's things that are in place to make sure that if you do this, it's not just clean,
Yeah.
easy to do. Now, when it comes to prenups, I agree with you. But the thing I want people to understand is that when you get married, you're signing a contract.
Yep.
It's just the state's contract.
Mm-hmm.
It's the standard state's contract. It's kind of like what you do wedding vows. You have the traditional vows,
Mm-hmm.
but then you could write your own vows.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't write your own vows, then you default to the traditional
Yeah.
vows.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with prenups. You're signing a contract, a marriage contract, regardless. And I feel like prenups get this bad rap because it's all about money and this and that.
Yes.
And it's like, no, it's just a contract that we are creating on our own terms.
Yes.
How we want things to go if things were not to work out. If you don't do a prenup, you already have a contract in place on what happens when things don't work out.
It's the default one.
It's the default one
Yes.
that the state wrote.
Yes.
So it's not negative to come up with your own. It's I probably more encouraged to do your own one.
Yes. Yep.
Just so you can have a conversation about it.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if you come into a relationship with something that you built that your partner did not contribute to.
Yes.
You should not have to pay out that or pay out anything from that your partner didn't contribute to help you building.
Yeah.
Like that's just the reality of that situation. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you have an agreement that talks about that, then I think that that's necessary because, like I said, you're signing an agreement anyways when you get married.
Yep, exactly. I mean, it governs, like it's the chief governing, basically. It trumps the default agreement. And it really is, it is about money. That is the basis of a prenuptial agreement. It's absolutely about money, but specifically about money that is earned and had and shared through marriage. It's really divvying up how do we deal with those things should you walk away. The law, the preset one, the regular marriage, says that whether they helped you or not, up until that moment, you get to say that. But once you marry them, it's no different. The law sees it as even if you got all of that 30 years before you met them, the day that you chose to legally bind to them, they now have legal rights to those things, whether they helped you with it or not. The prenup is what would then trump that and say, no, this is how we decided to.
You moved into this person's house. They bought it. Their name was on it way before you had it. If things were to split, that's their house and not your house.
Yes, you have to dial. You have to dial that out. If you don't dial that out, the law is the law. So I can't necessarily be mad at him. I just think again, these are things that you don't always consider because it just doesn't feel sexy to have to consider them because you just want marriage and all of that to feel like bliss and joy and like, why do we have to talk about the business? Well, because if this doesn't work out, that's going to be the number one topic of discussion, the business. Mm-hmm. How do we split these assets down? Do we even split these assets down? And like I said, I don't think spousal support should be a thing at all. I think it should be abolished across the board. I think you should leave with what you came in with. And you should not ask me to take care of you now that we're not together anymore. Why would I do that? Why would I do that? Again, taking care of my children who would be in your care, that's a whole different story. Child support is a whole different story, but I don't think that you should get to have the lifestyle that you had as my wife, if I'm as my husband, if I was of some sort of prominence and now we're not together anymore, you think that you should still have that? I don't think so, unless you can afford to have it on your own.
I don't know. I feel that because I feel like there are times to where a woman may give up her dreams and aspirations to handle certain things.
Yeah.
And that took away from their ability to build in their career and do all these different things. Mm-hmm. And I think that there should be something that is given if there was infidelity on the man's part or something like that, a woman files for divorce. I think there should be something that is given to her for making that sacrifice. But I think that that's why, again, I think prenups are important and you should do it if you have assets. Bree and I met when we were young. We had nothing to our name, so it wasn't nothing. It wouldn't have been nothing to split. Everything we got together. But I think if you have a prenup in place, I think it's beneficial because at the end of the day, if you do get divorced, you're going to spend money on lawyers. Do you want to do that up front where it's going to be way cheaper and everything's just kind of already like figured out on what's supposed to happen? Mm-hmm. Or you want to get to the nasty part to where you got to prove how incapable, how irresponsible. How like in order to get the thing that it gets real ugly at that point, and you spend a lot of money on divorce lawyers.
Yes, you do.
So
I think everyone should have a prenup,
Yeah.
regardless of your financial station at the time of marriage. I think everyone deciding to get legally married should sign a prenuptial agreement, even if it's just a standard one that says what you came in with is what you go with. Everybody. That's my advice for all. Get you a prenup. They are not reserved for millionaires. They're not reserved for celebrities. They're not. They are reserved for anyone that plans to acquire assets through marriage. You might not have none when you get married, but what about the ones that you get while you married? How will that go? Do you just assume that it will be 50-50 because your wife, who may not like you 10 years from now, like you said, could go right in front of a judge and be like, I did 90% of the work. So I want 90% of the company. And you like, I didn't think she would do that. Well, of course not. Most of the time, we don't think the people are going to turn into the people that they turn into when we get divorced from them, which is why you have these agreements. Get them while you like each other.
Exactly.
Get them while you like each other.
And then it makes sense.
Yes. All right. Well, let's jump into our real love scenario. This week we hear from Eric, and Eric says, I'm feeling uncertain about the state of my relationship with my wife, and I'm hoping you can shed some light on what might be happening. I tend to struggle with understanding things the right way. I haven't been very considerate of my wife's emotions, which has led to a loss of trust and resentment from her. I haven't been fully present in her life or attentive to her needs, as I've been more focused on my own desires and idealized fantasies of what our relationship should be. As a result, she has decided to separate from me and doesn't want to be in a relationship with anyone at this moment. I also feel like I have to live up to impossibly high expectations, and I often receive mixed messages from her, which adds to my confusion. Despite the challenges, we do engage in a sexual relationship, but we try not to let it impact our individual personal growth and the work we need to do in ourselves and our relationship. I'm someone who expresses affection easily, while my wife is not as affectionate. I'm making an effort to understand her emotions, validate her feelings, and meet her needs as a partner rather than just a husband. I'm trying to come to terms with this shift in dynamics and be okay with it. Furthermore, there is a painful history surrounding holidays for my wife, as she has experienced the loss of her family members on those occasions. Unfortunately, there was a particular instance where I tried to prevent her from visiting her sister in the hospital because I wanted to spend time with my own family. I suggested that we could visit her sister the next day, but tragically she passed away before we could do so. I deeply regret my actions, and my wife holds this against me, adding to the difficulties we face. I'm desperate to not lose my wife and would appreciate any guidance or assistance you can provide. Thanks, Eric, for writing in.
All right, Rhonda, where you want to start?
Let's jump into a part that I think is going to hit home for a lot of people, especially with us coming off of the holiday season, which is grief. I want to talk about that one because I just have had my own experiences with it. And for whatever reason, the holidays just heightened that feeling. And I felt very bad for both of them, but definitely for his wife in the situation that he experienced. So have you, I mean, I know you've lost people, but through the holidays, does it feel harder for you to deal with that? Does it come up for you more?
Not really.
Okay.
But I can see how it can. Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess for me, it's not necessarily grief. It's just the thought. Mm-hmm. And I think the thought becomes present because a lot of times the holidays is when you spend time with family and the people that you love. Mm-hmm. And when you have a tradition of doing things a certain way and some of those people are absent and not there, like, you know, they were in the past, and you do think about it and they're like, hey, I wish that this was here, or I remember going to Granny's house, or, you know, remember when my dad did this or did that. Mm-hmm. So I think my life at this point, it's not necessarily grief, like, oh, like sadness overcomes me. It's just like, man, you know, that was I missed like that. Fond that was like fond memory.
Yeah. For me, it can be definitely grief, and it is for the same exact reasons that I think about them, but then there becomes a longing for it. It becomes I wish that they were here, or I wish that we could do these things, or like some of it is joyful and like just sweet memories, but I think this past Christmas, some parts of it hit me pretty heavy. And I think it was because while I made it super clear that I wasn't really celebrating Christmas in the traditional way of like buying a bunch of gifts and doing all of that, I still was looking forward to spending some time with my family, and I was sick. So I couldn't. Like, I had to stay away from people. I didn't have COVID. I didn't have the flu. I had whatever this nasty thing is that's going around that a lot of people have, but it just wasn't smart to go around anybody during that time. So I'm like, not only am I not able to have holidays with people who have passed on, but I can't even have a holiday experience with people that are alive and well.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I'm also single. And if I wasn't single, even if I just had a boyfriend, he probably would be here even with me being sick. Because when you're in a relationship, you just know that if my boo is sick, I'm probably gonna be sick and we just gonna do this thing together. So I didn't even have that. So I was just like, man, it sucks. Like I just like looked around like, this really sucks. Like FaceTime is not really doing it, which I did that and it was good. And I wallowed in it for a little while. I didn't even really feel it until Christmas morning. Like all the days leading up to it, I was just kind of like, I was on the phone with y'all on Christmas Eve. No,
2 days before
2 days before Christmas. And I was sick, but I was like, okay. It was like, I need the rest. I like the whole being home thing. It feels good. But then that particular day hit and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this. But I shook it off and I was like, it's okay. Like you have lots of people that love you. You won't be single forever. And I just made myself a really delicious dinner, put on Christmas music, and made the best of it.
Now, I will say that is a real thing as far as the grief. If you are single and you want a relationship, holidays will highlight that.
Yeah, kick your ass.
Oh my gosh.
And your family don't always help either.
No. It's different. I remember that one time too. I remember it was a 4th of July thing. And normally I would have, somebody that I would spend that time with, dating somebody. But I remember one day, one 4th of July, it was like nobody. And I ain't had nowhere to watch fireworks. And I like pulled over on the side of the road because I saw some fireworks. And I was just like, man, this sucks, man. Like these are the times where you do something. The weekend you do something with your person, and like all those weekends, it's like it's all those holidays. It reminds you sometimes that you don't have anybody, and it sucks.
Yep, definitely reminds you, and you just be like, okay, get out of here. Get out of there. You just got to try to get out of that space because wallowing in it isn't going to change it, and you just have to try to have a positive mindset around it. So with that being said, I cannot imagine also having lost people specifically in the holiday season, like someone that passed away around Christmas or on Christmas or around Thanksgiving or on, like it then just makes it even worse. And it sounds like his wife has experienced that multiple times. Like she's lost several family members in holiday seasons.
And I feel bad, like you said, for both of them because losing a sister or sibling, that's horrible and tragic. And I think also with him presenting what he presented, he had no idea or thought that in that day, you know what I mean, that it would happen. So it's like, I know he's probably like, dang, man, like I wish I would have, if I would have knew, but that's the part about making decisions. You don't know the future, right?
Yeah.
So you make decisions based off of how you feel, but you can't always determine what the consequences of those decisions are ultimately going to be.
Yeah, you can't. And I think I just want to talk about just like giving people a lot of grace when they do feel this feeling, especially if in previous instances, this was the case, like they've lost family members. He admits that like he just wanted to be with his own family, which included her. But it just, if you already knew, that this is a tough time for her, because she's already lost several family members, it just would have made more sense. And obviously it's a shoulda, coulda, woulda, but it just would have made more sense to allow her to be with the family that she does have, the family that she is close to. Perhaps you didn't need to go. Like, I get it. Maybe you wanted to stay back with the kids or go and visit your mom, but that was important to her, not just because that's her family member, but because I have lost family during this time. Like, let me have that. It's really understanding that because you don't know, cool, but to not be super selfish just because it's a holiday. You're putting pressure on being with your family on a Christmas or on whatever just because it's a holiday, when really, if this were a normal day, it probably wouldn't have even been a thing for her to go see her sister. You would have not even thought about it.
Yeah, and I think you have to also be sensitive when it comes to dealing with other people's family and understand that, because I think it's easy to not view other people's family as your family. So you operate in the sense of like,
I'm more important.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you can't dictate that when it comes to other people's family. Like, people want to spend time with with their own family.
Yep.
It don't matter, especially when you're in a relationship. You'll hear all the good and bad about each family member personally to your person. They'll tell you. But even for me, I know, and Bree's the same way. And like, I could talk crap about my family all I want, but I don't want to hear you getting too like
watch your mouth.
Calm down, calm down. I can say that.
You can't. You can't say that. Yeah.
And I know I say all this stuff, but I still love this person. So sometimes it could be like, well, why are you going up there? You always saying this person is this person. It's my cousin. That's my brother. That's my aunt. Like,
that's it.
I love them.
That's
like,
it.
they get on my nerves, you know, but hey, this is my family. Like, and this is what it is. So it's like, you got to be sensitive around that, because you can't take everything that your person tells you about them at face value, because although they might say things deep down, that's still their family.
Yes.
And when you start to look at things, and I know how it feels, because it's like, even with the family, my dad's side that I went to the cruise with on New Year's, it's like, that side of the family is dwindled down. Like, my grandfather, my aunt is his only child left. My dad passed away and my Uncle Tony passed away. So I'm, as far as men bloodline, like, I'm the only man, like, living male.
Yeah.
From him. And then it's like, then his wife died, so our grandmother died, Mimi. And then recently my uncle died, which was my aunt's husband. So it's like, little by little, family dwindled. So anytime that side of the family wants to get together and do something, I want to do it, and I want to be a part of that, and I want to be present, because I know we've lost so much. And even Thanksgiving this past year, Bree and I did that. Like, Bree went to Florida.
I was just about to bring that up.
Bree went to Florida.
Had it separate.
And spent time with her family. But I was like, my aunt and my cousins just lost their dad and husband a week ago. I'm gonna stay here with my family.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna leave. Like, and I want to be here with my family and have that time. And Bree understood that. Was like, okay, like, we'll do our things. You do that. You do that. We'll come together, and you know, that's that. And
especially when, like, we have each other all the time.
All the time. That's why I don't get with people. I'm like, yo, I see this woman 24/7 all the time. Like, but one day, whether it's Christmas or Thanksgiving, I see her all. I get Bree all 99% of my life.
Yes.
All the time. I see her. We spend time together, we eat together, we do everything together. Like, if we gotta spend a day, whether it's a holiday or not, apart for good reasons, we're both fine with that. Yeah. Because you know what? Once it's over, guess who's gonna be right back with each other?
Us. You coming right back here. Your key still works in this household. It's really okay. So that part was tough. And like you said, I'm sure he felt bad, because he wouldn't have thought just a day of time would have changed that. But it's like, really look at the big picture. Selfishness can, in fact, be really damaging if you won't just allow your person to just go and experience some parts of their lives that is still an individual experience.
And I think grace is the perfect word that you use for that. Because I can see, because I like to put things in a realistic scenario, because sometimes we read things and be like, that's harsh. But I could see something you've been around people who've been sick, and if the sister died, like, within that day, she probably was really ill.
Yeah.
But it could be a situation where him is like, you going up there every day. You've been up there every single day. It's Christmas. Like, you know, like, just this one day. Can you please? And then she's unresponsive. She won't even hear you. Like, and then she might go back, well, it's Christmas. I don't want her to be up there alone on a holiday. She can't even hear you. She breathing through a tube. Like, I feel like she will know, and she'll sense my presence, and I'll give her the energy to keep fighting. And I can understand on one side, it's like, you've been up there every single day. This is Christmas. Can you just spend this day with me and just go tomorrow? Like, I think you'll be fine. I can see on the other hand, it's like, I don't want to have my sister out there with strangers
Right.
on Christmas.
Right.
And I know you feel like she don't hear me or she can or she's not responsive, but I feel like it will make a difference. And I don't want, I can see that's
Yeah.
the realistic internal relationship battles, and both have a point.
Have points, yes.
Like, it's not like this is white and black situation. They both have points to where you can both see it. And had her sister not died, it would have turned out as like, oh, okay,
just fine.
Just see, it's fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is the situation, and that can be tough. I've had situations not around death, but like those situations to where you can see both sides of the argument, and both parties have legitimate, like,
yeah, they both have
legitimate points.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's move on to kind of the next overall thing we're picking up from this, which is clearly they're separated and they're trying to navigate life through separation. Sounds like they live apart, like they're not living under the same household. And I think separation looks very different for a lot of different couples. But I want to talk about like what we think separation should look like. What does also even the law say about that time, and why there are rules and parameters around even the length of separation? Like, what should life really look like during that time? Do you think it's very normal for people to be really confused in that period of time? Like, you've made a decision that something is bad enough that you want to be apart. But is it really that simple?
I mean, I think people, I think people can be confused because there are no absolutes, number one. But I think a lot of times what separation gives you is an more sober evaluation period of, is this what you really want? Because I think that a lot of times the feeling and emotion of wanting to leave is a true and real feeling. But I think that when you start to evaluate all that comes with that, you might end up changing your mind. What's the one saying? I always say cliches stay around because they good. They good. What they say is cheaper to keep her. I met a guy was like, when I got married, he was like, listen, cheaper to keep her. Whatever you're going through, it's gonna cost you way more to leave that situation versus trying to find a way to figure it out. And sometimes you need that separation to evaluate. Like, you start the steps and you start looking and you like, whew, so okay, so I know if we split the house, she gonna want to sell it. So
yeah,
to move there.
It's
and
the sound effects.
It's just you start to evaluate and to determine, is this worth it? I mean, like I said in a previous episode, everything has a cost. Nothing in life is free. Another saying, nothing in life is free. Everything has a cost.
Yep.
So even if you want to get divorced or you want to move on, that comes with a cost. Are you willing to pay the cost? And I think when you separate, it's about evaluating, do you want to pay that cost? Are you willing to take those steps? And I think that that's when some people move forward with it and say, yes, I am. And then some people look at it and say, we would be better off trying to work this out and figure this out.
Yeah.
And I think it's also too, what you're separating for and why is one of the biggest reasons. Because some things you can recover from and some things it's just really hard and tough to recover from.
Yeah. I think that separation is a confusing time because you still have legal marital obligations, right? Like, the law still sees you as a married couple, but the world is likely perceiving you as single. Like, you are moving about as a single person. You are probably living, maybe, depending on your financial status, you may have now secured a new place that's separate from your marital home, but you are still legally bound to whatever the marital responsibilities are.
Would you seriously date somebody who's separated?
No, I would not seriously date someone who is separated. I have, but I would not do that anymore. I would not do that anymore. And the person who I dated who was separated was separated for years.
Gotcha.
Years and years and years and years. And for some people that might sound like, so then what was the problem? Because I don't understand why you won't just get divorced. If you've been separated for 7 years, Why won't you just finish the thing off?
Some
Like,
people just trying to keep the benefits of marriage and
that's
stuff like
it.
that
They
from a
trying to
legal
keep the benefits
standpoint.
of marriage. Yep.
But I think too, like I agree with you. I wouldn't want to do that. But I
Mm-hmm.
also think of like freshly separated, like newly within that
Yeah.
first year.
Yeah.
I
No.
think of the one breakup that I had in college,
Mm-hmm.
and I think when you break up and start dating again
Mm-hmm.
immediately,
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of just trying to live out the fantasies and ideas that you wanted to do
But you couldn't do it.
but you couldn't do it when you were
Mm-hmm.
married.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I see so many women, and I know women who dated men who are separated. It's like, oh yeah, he's just separated. He's getting divorced, and we're gonna do X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
It's like, oh, so he just got separated 6 months ago. Yeah, I don't know if he hopping right back into getting married to somebody.
Right.
Like the only way I could see that happen is if it was like the friend who like they knew each other before,
Mm-hmm.
and he like, I made the wrong choice. I chose A or B, and I chose
Yep.
A,
Mm-hmm.
but now I'm thinking about it. It should have been B.
Right.
So I'm gonna take this time and I'm gonna be with B. And then I've seen those situations where it's like, oh, they just got married fast.
They jump right back into it. Yeah. So I definitely think it's confusing. I think what it is actually really meant to be, though, is a time for you to determine next steps. If you are separating for like a cool off period, you feel like you need to like just create some separation so you can see things better. You know, sometimes you really have to step back so you can see the bigger picture instead of being in the middle of the fire. I think that's really what it should be if you're uncertain if you want divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, if at the time of separation you are like pretty positive you want a divorce, the separation is just what is legally required. Almost every state jurisdiction requires separation for a period of time. Most commonly, I think it's a year, but in other places it's less than that. Some places is 6 months or just a few months. Some places, depending on the type of agreement that is drawn up, like the separation agreement, because both parties are not going to dispute anything, they're super clear that like we want a clean cut break from this, they can sometimes get divorced a lot faster. But if you are, which to me in their case, in the scenario, this is more of a cool off period. This is a let's pull away from this to really see what we can do to fix our marriage, what we can do, if we can do anything to actually fix the marriage. And I think in that time, a lot of really focused, intentional work needs to be happening. And to me, the last thing that should probably be happening is sex, because sex can cloud judgment so very much, especially with a person that you already have an emotional connection to. Do you agree?
Yeah. I mean, it's being married or in a relationship and breaking up, but still continuing to have sex with somebody. I don't know. It feels bad to me. Not bad as like you're bad, like slap on the wrist, but basically what it's just saying is that my expectations of you now have dropped so low that you're not even worth being committed to or in a relationship with or doing life with. But I just use you kind of as a tool to satisfy the need or urge that I have in this particular situation. But my expectation of what you can bring to the table has now dropped. Like, I don't expect anything other than a good sexual experience from you, and that's it.
Yep. I when he said, you know, we're doing it, but we're doing everything to make sure it doesn't have an impact on the individual work that we're doing. It's like that's not. I hear you, because it is what we believe is a human need. Like sex is a human physical body need sometimes. Like you just need to get the energy off. But to think that you can do this with your spouse and it not have any impact on your decisions is just, come on now. Like,
Well, let me ask you a question. Have you had sex with people that you don't like?
no,
Because I'm trying to think of like if you dislike somebody to the point of like, to me that makes somebody unattractive.
Yeah, like
right?
I've never, the reason that I struggle to answer the question is because, here we go. I've had sex with people that I knew that I didn't like them enough to do like a lot of super serious things with.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
I mean, but completely dislike them and still have sex with them? No.
Because I mean, I feel like you have to get to that point to want to separate and like
Yeah.
there has to be a strong emotion behind that, but to still be involved sexually is very interesting to me.
Yeah.
And then also on the flip side, have you ever had sex with somebody that you really wanted something more with, but they just wanted sex?
Yes.
That feeling sucks.
Yes, it sucks terribly.
Because you're giving that to them because that's your only connection to them, but you want more, but it's like, I want to do more than this and always doing this, but this is my only connection to you. And if I break off this connection to you, then I don't have you at all.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's an empty feeling. It sucks.
Yeah.
And so I can't imagine even on his side, like, it seems like he's just holding on for dear life because this is really the only connection
that you have,
that I have to you, because without this, there is nothing else.
Yeah. Yep.
So you agree to it, hoping that some point this will come around, but then it messes with your mind psychologically that this person is doing all these things to you physically, doing all this, but won't want to be with you.
Yes.
And
like, I don't know what type of sex y'all are having out here. You know, I know that there are people that can have like this very like rigid sexual experience where somehow they don't feel connected to the person during that experience, but I just don't even really know how that's possible, because even down to the physicality of sex, it's all very like, even when you having like rough sex, it's still like a lot of touching and holding and grabbing and staring in each other's eyes. It's usually where you hear pet names being said. Like, I don't know how you can do that and then be like, all right, then. You know, like, I get the booty call concept, but most people, you like your booty call.
But I think that that's what I meant by the expectation drops, because I can say as a man, yeah, I've been there. Like I told you, what led to me waiting for marriage was I was having sex with girls I didn't even like enough to stay over. Like, all right, cool. Peace, like,
yeah,
bye. And it's like, because the expectation is low. It's like, there's a physical attraction. I have a need. Boom, we do what we do. Cool. Bam. Like, that was fun. Like, and that's part of the game, part of the experience. But once that's over, it's like, cool. And then the thing is that once you, not to get too graphic, but we all know the mindset of a horny person versus a non-horny person. Like, when you get really horny, what you would do
to satisfy that, to scratch
things that
that
you
itch.
would try, it gets crazy. Like, wow. And then you slap back to reality and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Man, what was I thinking? I can't believe I tried that. Or I did that. Or I touched that. Like, or I did, like, it was like, ew. Okay.
Let's act like that didn't happen.
But when you're in that mindset, like, you just get into it, and it's like, live out all the thoughts and fantasies that you always have. So it's just, yeah, it's just an interesting thing.
So if we are super clear that sex is probably something that you should avoid during this time, because it's you're really trying to figure out if you can actually have a long-standing relationship, if you can reconcile your marriage and stay in it. If sex is one thing that you shouldn't be doing, what should people really be doing during separation if they aren't sure that they want to get divorced?
I think it depends on why you're separating. But I think that ultimately what we have said is it's an evaluation period. It's looking back and saying, what do I ultimately want my life to look like? Which I said in the past episode, like envisioning what do I want, putting that to paper, and then looking at your current situation and seeing how that matches up. And then you have to determine, can I get what I want out of this current relationship? I think it's evaluating the things that have happened. I think it's evaluating what you done and what you contributed to that. I think it's evaluating if you've taken all the steps to satisfy and to, create a better environment or to cure whatever's happening, because I see that a lot. It's like some people don't take all the steps that they possibly could take. They just give up. And it's like, did you try therapy? No, we don't need therapy. This thing is obvious. Like, how can you not know this?
Yeah.
Well, what if the person told you they needed that and you just said no, and you're divorcing them without even doing that?
Yeah.
If the therapist didn't work, you try a different one, because sometimes you have to find the right one for you. Like, it's like all these things during that time you have to, I think it's just really going back to what I said, an evaluation period.
Yeah.
You have to look at the situation from every single angle, every single perspective, and understand. I think this is helpful, is that if you both, or when I've seen peaceful divorces or peaceful splits, is they both are on the same page on what went wrong, what went right, and the reason for them splitting.
Yeah.
I think the issues come when there's a difference in opinion on who did what, or why this happened, or what the issues are and stuff like that. If you have that division on why you're even splitting in the first place, then I think it comes with a lot of issues. But if you guys can take that time to come together and say, this is the issue, this is the problem, I think that's either the way for a healthy split or the catalyst for you fixing it.
Yeah.
But you guys have to come to agreement on what the issue is.
Yeah, for sure. I think you hit the nail on the head around just like this evaluation period. And I think just like in last week's episode, it is having really honest conversations about what needs to happen if we are going to reconcile. Like, what are the minimum requirements for us to even be willing to move back under the same roof and take another stab at this relationship? Like, what must you have and what must I have and what must I do and what must you do in order to really see if we can make this work? I also think, though, it's a time, especially if you are separated but living separate, like separated and living separately, I think it's a time to kind of take it back to the basics too. I think it's a time to date and like actually feel the joy of that. Like, go back to what it was like even pre-marriage or maybe pre-problems. Like, it's not just spending this entire time of separation mulling over every single detail around what went wrong. It's also like dating each other. Again, if you're trying to reconcile, it is getting to the place where things were really good. And that probably included some just fun, like going out to dinner or maybe even taking a short trip together. If y'all have been separated for 5 months and you're working the things, you've talked and you all are taking strides towards getting better. If this was a normal relationship and you had just met someone, you probably would plan a little staycation with them or a short trip with them, or you would be taking them out or having some movies or spending some time in each other's space just to see how your physical energy is doing at this time. And I think that should happen during separation too. Like, everything is not completely and wholly about what went wrong and how do we fix it. I think some of it is just enjoying each other and not mulling over the details. It's just being able to be like, damn, I actually like you, or I've missed you. You know, I've missed this part of you because we got so caught up in marriage life and what that looks like, which for some people it can look like an abandonment of all of those things. Some people get married and they abandon the fun. Like, you just become like, we just married. And I don't know, I don't think he referenced children, but if you have kids, that's even worse sometimes, because then your life just becomes about their life.
Yeah, I want to have a couple on. They're actually clients of Brie and ours, and they're actually doing podcasting and stuff too. So that might be a good collab. But their situation is very interesting. And I only know briefly from what they told me when I saw them quickly. But basically, they were married, got divorced, and then got remarried again. So I just would love to hear that story of getting to the point of actually going through with it,
Yes.
then coming back to it, and seemingly to be happily married at this point. So yeah, it's just interesting that period, because you would think that once you separate and file the paperwork, that's it. And sometimes people say that, right? They say there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. I'm sorry. Like, and that has to be hard to hear, but is that the truth?
You just won't know sometimes. It could be, could not be, because you don't know what it feels like, or you haven't known probably in a long time what it feels like to not be with this person. A lot of times you get, or you arrive to the decision of probably wanting divorce because it just doesn't feel like you're enjoying what you're doing with this person. Like, you're literally just not enjoying marriage, but that's usually only fueled by a few things. It's fueled by a few things that they did or you all experienced that were bad. But the marriage is a whole. It's a sum of parts. And so when you separate from them, you're not just losing the things you don't like, you're also losing the things that you do like. You're losing the whole person. And so when you're on the other side of that, you might be like, damn, I do hate that he didn't listen to my feelings as much as I would like, or he didn't continue to plan dates and our sex life started to suck. But nobody would understand these jokes like him. Like, he will always make sure I had that in the cupboard, and now it's not there and I got to go get it on my own. Or even down to just silly stuff like trash taken. Like, I bring that up a lot, but again, those things where if you got used to having a person doing that with you or for you for 15, 20 years, and then you get separated and it's like, oh no, oh no. Sometimes that is enough. That longing and that missing of that thing will make you be like, all right, I do definitely still want us to get these problems together, but there was a lot more good than bad. And maybe we can, in fact, work out the bad so we can get back to the good.
Yeah, and I think sometimes separation can be used to date. It's
like date each other or date others.
Date others, okay. Because the reality is sometimes people get divorced or want to get divorced because they think there's something better out there, and they think life is better out there, and that this would be better and that would be better. And sometimes you need to see that, like, experience that sometimes to where you are dating other people and trying to take other people serious, and then it's just not, like you said, they don't get the jokes like so-and-so get the jokes, and they don't understand this about me and that. And it can be a point to where you realize, like, yeah, actually, nah, I'm good. That could be part of your evaluation. That's why I always say what you do in that period is all depending on why you want to split. Some people split because, like I said, they feel like it's something better out there than what they currently have. Not that the thing that they have is actually inadequate. It's just their own perception of what they feel like things are.
Yeah.
Some people get married early, and then as they grow in their career or, in age, they become more attractive to other people.
Yeah.
And then the doors or the possibilities or opportunities that they didn't have prior to marriage now start to open up to them. So now they see, like, dang, I made this marriage decision based off of the options I had at that point. But if I had all these options now, I probably would have made a different decision. And that separation, sometimes, I mean, some people explore it in a marriage, but
true.
But I think sometimes that separation, like, if that's the case, some people, may date during that separation, but then realize, like, yeah, nah, this ain't it. This ain't everything I thought it would be or cracked up to be. This person just wants me for this, and I see this person just wants me for that now, and it's like, yeah, they're cute and all this, but, like, I can't trust them.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how important trust is, and, like, being able to count on your person and somebody coming through for you when you need them and supporting you, like, through a rough time. Like, I didn't take all those things into consideration, but after experiencing something different, I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I need that.
Yeah. I would not suggest dating during separation, but I understand why people do it. And I think that's really the primary reason, because I think it's very hard to compare a new person to a person you were married to for years, who you were probably dating for years first and maybe engaged to for a period of time, to try to compare the new person who you might have only been kicking it with for 3 months and expecting them to potentially show you if they can be better than your spouse is like, probably don't have enough time to fully evaluate that. But I think it works really well when we're talking about the dynamic that you said. Just within that time frame, you're like, nah, nope.
Because the stuff that you are wishing your partner had that you seeing from the outside world is shallow anyway. So it's not something that takes 6 months or 9 months. You want the things that are shallow anyways. Better looks, better, like, the things that you'll be able to see quickly after taking a while. Like, yeah, that crap don't matter. And like I said, I've been there before. Broke up with somebody, thought the sex or woman fold my clothes and cooking for me, and it's like, yeah, got a girl, did all that, but then it still didn't do it for me. Like, and that was quick to see after you live out the fantasy really quick.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, let's talk about the transgressions. And that sounds like a big word. You tell I'm a church child. But there were
you showed your age too. She said cupboard.
I did say cupboard. There were several that he highlighted, and so I want to just kind of read them off.
Yes.
So he talked about that he was not considerate of her emotions, which led to a loss of trust with her. And then she also started to resent him, which, Dre, if you've not heard some previous episodes, we talked a lot about resentment, and we're going to talk about it today. He also said that he hasn't been fully present in her life or attentive to her needs. He instead prioritized his own desires and idealized fantasies of what he felt the relationship should look like. And as far as her transgressions, he's saying that she has impossibly high expectations. So essentially, he can't keep up with them. And she sends mixed messages. And the last one is that he's very affectionate, but she's not, which for me is just more of a chemistry thing, which I would think would have come up in dating. But people can change. Over time,
sex is the one thing that is still on the table for the two.
The sex, there's nothing listed here as that sex was problematic. Sex was fine. It's just affection is a whole different story. So with those particular transgressions, I'm curious on like your thought of like how do you recover from each of those. So maybe we can start with just like invalidating feelings or not like hearing your partner out. If that's a consistent theme and now your person doesn't trust you to handle their feelings, how do you even begin the process of recovering from that?
Well, I think the issue when it comes to that is first the person just wants to be heard. So I think that you have to get to a point to where they understand that you hear them. Mm-hmm. And I think that the only recovery when it comes to any of this stuff, a lot of times is just patience. It takes time, showing up consistently. And unfortunately, you don't have a lot of room for error. When you show up consistently, in most relationships, you can fall a little bit and, do the right thing. And then you can make a few mistakes and then do the right thing, like minor mistakes. But when you truly mess up and fumble the bag and really mess up, your room for error
it's gone.
It's gone.
Yep.
You gotta show up every day consistently. There can't be any faults, because you're gonna trigger somebody. As soon as you do this, it's like, dang, I thought they were getting on the right track, but then boom, back into it again. You trigger that person. So I think it's the patience, and taking the time, and really, when you're interacting with that person, making sure that you give them the space to express how they feel. And that's not the time, I think, during your relationship and during that point of your relationship to insert your own feelings, thoughts, all that stuff like that. It's time to just listen and let them know that you're here to support them, to be there for them. And then also asking them what they need. Yeah. What do you need? Yep. I feel you. That sucks. What could I do? Yep. Even saying stuff like that lets you know that I hear you. I'm listening. Yep. Yep. But if you respond, it could seem like, but you didn't hear what I was saying. Yeah. You missed it. Yep. And then people get exhausted. Like, we all say that. I'm tired of repeating myself. Like, you don't want to get your person to the point of exhaustion, because then that means they stop trying. It's like, it's not even worth attempting anymore to do this. Like, I'm done. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm good. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
I'll talk to somebody else who will actually listen. I think the part that you said that I want to just expound on a little bit was really asking the person who is in the position to forgive and to recover with you, asking them what they need, asking them, how can I regain your trust? Because you can certainly come up with your own ideas on what you need to do to regain their trust, but wouldn't you rather want to just know very specifically from them, like what their thoughts around what it looks like for them? I want them to tell me. You don't have to give me extreme details, because I'll figure out how to do that. But if it's like, okay, I want to be able to, sometimes you go through infidelity. Sometimes the person who got cheated on may want access to things. I want your password to this. Now, for some people that feels like, well, then that means you don't trust me. I don't right now, which is exactly why I'm asking for the password. So that's a flow of communication where it can be like, okay, cool, happy to give it to you because I'm not doing anything, but I would at a point, once the trust is regained, that we don't have to do that anymore, because that's really trust. Trust is completely tied into faith, where you have to be able to trust that the person is doing what they're saying they're doing without your ability to verify it, without you being able to check. You just trust in your heart that they're not doing anything. And I think it's also asking, like, what can I do to support you forgiving me? While those things sound very similar, sometimes to me, trust is more about, or regaining trust is more about very tangible, actionable items. But forgiveness is to me more of an emotional feeling. Is it that you need to be reassured a lot more? Do I need to pour into you? Maybe I didn't compliment you enough. Maybe I just didn't make you feel beautiful. I just didn't make you feel seen. I didn't sing your praises when we would be in certain spaces. Maybe those are other things that will make you soften down on. It's like when you think about somebody making a mistake and they say sorry, they just say the word sorry, like sorry. It's not that they're not sorry. It just didn't feel very warm when they said it. But when someone does something, they're like, you know what? I really sincerely apologize for that. I absolutely didn't mean to do that to you. It could have been the smallest thing, but when they say it in a way that feels that they put emotion behind the apology, it almost feels like the forgiveness just jumps out of you. It's like, oh no, I'm sorry. Don't you say I'm okay. You know, like you go through that. So I think sometimes it is just really around language and how you are framing that you feel bad for what you did. It's not just saying like, I said sorry. It's like, yeah, but it didn't feel like you were actually sorry. It just sounds like your mouth said that you were sorry. And I think that's actually the answer for majority of these things, except for the affection part. Because I don't really know how to overcome that other than really asking your wife what keeps her from being this way. Like, it's something that you desire, something that you want. It's like, what stops you from engaging with me in that type of way? And I assume by affection, he means like maybe she's not touchy-feely enough. Maybe she doesn't kiss outside of the bedroom, or maybe she doesn't like PDA. I don't really know what not being affectionate enough means specifically for him. But if that's just not something that comes natural to her, I actually truly don't know how you get her buy-in on it, other than her just being willing to do it for you because it's something that you just really want.
Yeah, so I want to speak to the other ones first, and then I want to speak to the affection, because I do have experience with that. So I just think too, with the other stuff, you just sometimes when you do things to make up and show up consistently, like we're talking about, you just have to make sure you don't do it for show, that you actually truly mean it and commit to it. Because I've seen people who say that they would never forgive somebody for something, but actions definitely speak louder than words. And if you show up consistently doing something for a certain amount of time, somebody's opinion will change. They'll look and be like, well, maybe they'll be like, I'll never forgive you. I don't care what you do. And the person will be like, I'll do this every single day. Like, I promise you. And they're like, I don't care if you do it. I still don't care. Like, but then if you do it every single day, and it's not for show, it's not like, hey, see me, look at me. Like, am I forgiven yet? It's just like, no, a true change behavior. After a while, the person will be like, maybe they are changed. And then they'll keep looking and they'll start to see like, oh, this person really is committed to this and is trying to change their behavior. It's not a thing of like doing it for show. It's like, let's say you struggle with alcohol in your relationship and it got really bad and something really bad happened. You're like, I'm done. I can't do it. Multiple times you told me you would stop and I haven't seen you stop. I'm completely done. And the person is like, you know, you're right. I really have a problem. I want to go get help. And I'm really going to commit to like not doing this anymore. And they don't do it. And you'll look at them and see and still not believe it. But if over time, after time, after time, days go past, they go past, they see you in environments where there's alcohol and you're just like, no. And it's not for show. It's like a true, authentic thing. I think that's the way to really win that back as well. But when you're doing it for show, when you're trying to be like, see me, see, I did it. I
Told
did the thing
you.
you asked. Like, I'm doing it. It's like that will not work because it seems like you're just doing it just to kind of get back in the good graces. But then once you're back in the good graces, then like you're going to revert back to how you were versus a true
doing
change
it for
behavior.
brownie points.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the no affection thing, I think that's something that can change. Like, I feel like I wasn't extremely affectionate when Bree and I got together. And I think that part of that comes from the environment of your relationship. Like that can foster more affection or fosters you doing things that you wouldn't ultimately want to do or like to do, but you do it because you love the person that you're with. And that's the thing that we talk about versus wanting to do something versus feeling like something is a chore in your relationship. That a lot of times you do things, that some relationships you do things because you're not in a good relationship space, but you say, because I am the husband, because I am the wife, because I'm the boyfriend, this is my duty to do this. So it's not done with affection. It's not done with care. It's not done with any romantic element to it. It's just knocking out what I'm supposed to be doing because this is my title. But when you're in an environment in your relationship to where it's truly healthy, it's truly fun, you guys really enjoy doing it and being in that relationship, you start to do things that you wouldn't never want to do just because you know it'll see your partner smile or it'll make them happy. Like it's like when I talk about doing the picnic. I don't like picnics, but I plan a picnic for my wife. And there's so many things that you start to do when you have a good environment in your relationship. And it's almost like a one-upping of how we can do things that make our partner smile and make them happy. And one of the easiest ways and most fulfilling ways being in a relationship to make your partner happy is by doing something that they know you don't like, but they like. That will put a smile on their face because they know you don't like it. And that's not who you are, but they know that you're stepping outside of your comfort zone to do something for them.
Yeah.
And that makes them happy. Like, thank you. Like, I appreciate this. And I think for me, once the dynamic of our relationship changed internally for us and we got better, not even just in affection moments, just in every part of our relationship, I became more affectionate. Started to hold hands, started to kiss on the cheek, started to arm around because it was just the environment was different. But for me, some people, it's hard to like have you speak a certain way to me and then want to hold my hand later. And I understand some people grow up in that environment, yelling, arguing, whatever. When we make up, we're good. No, you just yelled at me. It might take me 3 days to recover. Or you doing this every single day. In my mind, I still love you, but it's like, I ain't trying to be all buddy with you. Like, it's just, I don't want to do all that. But when we're in a good space with our entire relationship, it just fosters an environment for affection.
Yeah, and that definitely could be a factor here because it sounds like there's been a lot that has gone
Turmoil.
on. Yes, where maybe the lack of affection developed within the relationship because of that, but also she could just be naturally not very affectionate. Like that's possible. I feel like our baselines come from what we experienced overall. Like I think when a person is not naturally affectionate, it's because that was never a baseline in their life. They didn't experience it with people that they did love, like, or that loved them. Like if they weren't affectionate, their parents probably weren't that affectionate, or either with them or just in their romantic dynamics, they function, but you never really saw mom and dad kiss, touch, tap each other, cuddle up on a couch, and you didn't necessarily see that. So it's not something you kept for yourself to be like, oh, this is what people do when they are together. This is what people do when they are married. Where in my household, even though my mom had a couple of relationships that I got to witness that were in fact affectionate, my mother was very affectionate with me. She was very affectionate with all of us from what I could see. So once I got outside of my mom's house, that just was to me like, oh, this is what you do when you like someone. You tell them, you touch them, you kiss them, you touch on them. So that my baseline came from my household. That's literally where it came from, because I don't know that I can't pinpoint a romantic situation that changed it for me. I'm like that, period. But just like you, if we're having a rough time, if you are like talking to me crazy, even as a very affectionate person, that is out of the window when we're not good. It might not be out of the window for as long as we can get through this, but I don't think then again, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that because people are different. Some people can be seething blood mad and still can do everything. Like, I just can't. So, and that's even like it, but that's the part about that pains me the most is that I am so pissed and I want to hug you. Like, I want to cuddle. I want to kiss, but I'm just so pissed that I can't even do it. I can't even think about it. So yes, mine definitely came from my household. My brother, Manny, who I grew up with, was very affectionate, very protective over me, even though sometimes it was like in a boy way, like punch me in my shoulder. But just as fast as he would do that, he would embrace me and pull me in. Like, I love you, little sis, kiss me on my forehead. He still does that to this day. It's just how we grew up.
I think if you don't have it, I think that you can get it. I just think it's what they say, love conquers all. I think the love, like even you see men, sometimes they say like when I had my daughter, like that changed everything. Like that love, I wasn't a affectionate person. I wasn't, but when I see my baby, like I see my little girl, like I want to kiss her cheek and like give her a hug and like let her know like that love it takes time. Like if you're not that type of person.
Yeah.
But I think if the love is there, that over time it can start to work on you to start to mold you into being a more affectionate person.
Yeah.
Now I think it's a spectrum, right? It's not that you're going to completely be tonguing somebody down in the middle of the street or something like that. You might not feel comfortable in that way.
Yeah.
But the handhold, hand on the leg, arm around you, like those type of things, I think that you could feel a lot more comfortable. But just understanding that if you have a person who's naturally not affectionate, be ready to wait. It's going to take some time. Be patient. It's not a quick turnaround because that's a mental hurdle that somebody is trying to get over.
Yeah.
Feeling comfortable, stepping outside of a comfort zone. And in order to do that, they have to feel safe with you to do something that they're not comfortable with. And if you haven't created a safe environment for them to do something that they're not comfortable with, guess what they're not going to do? Something they're not comfortable with because they don't feel like they're in a safe place to do it.
Very simple.
Sometimes you have to look at yourself when talking about the issues that your problem or the issues that your partner's having, and see how you contribute to that and what environment that you can create to make it conducive to them for them to do that.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into the big old R word. The big old R word that I feel like is the silent killer in a relationship. And I'm going to let Dre take the lead on this because, again, you talked about resentment several times in other scenarios. And just as a quick definition, resentment means bitter indignation at having being treated unfairly. Bitter indignation. Indignation is like, ooh, I am angry. Like I am. So it's a lot of feelings all in one when you're dealing with resentment. How do you think resentment has an impact on relationships?
Well, it's the killer. Once you recognize it, it's too late. A lot of times that it once it shows and rears its ugly head, that's a genie that's hard to put back in a bottle for sure. Because the things that stem from that resentment or come from that resentment, it can make the simplest task in your relationship be 4-day not talking to argument worthy.
Yep.
It could be not taking the trash out. It could be not putting the top back on something, leaving something out the fridge. Like simple things in a relationship is like, oh, let me just put this back. But if somebody resents you, that you forgetting to put something back in the fridge after you took it out, forgot to put the juice back in the fridge, you always, I can't never count on you.
Yes.
Every time I ask you to do something, you never do it. You never commit to what you said you were going to do. And this is what I'm always doing. That's what my mother was talking about when she told me not. And then it starts to go down and it's like,
oh my God. You just feel like your whole face is blowing back like, whoa.
And that all can stem from that one moment to where something happened and they chose you, or they feel like you forced them to choose you or do something that they didn't want to do, but they did it because you told them to. And don't let that thing not turn out the way that it was supposed to turn out. And then it just starts to build and build and build and build. And the issue is that one of the feeders of resentment is lack of communication. It's that you don't communicate how you feel about the actual thing. You just take it out in other ways.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we see some people, they deal with the blow up, but didn't even realize it was even an issue in the first place.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people hold on to that resentment and they try to fight it. And they say like, well, they try to make sense of it, or they make themselves the victim, I guess, in a sense. Mm-hmm. And I've seen in relationships, like you have somebody, let's say, who has a job, and then they take a job to where you have to move and you can't work your job anymore that you loved and all that. And in your mind, you're trying to reckon with yourself that this was their dream. I shouldn't be upset. I agreed to this too, so I shouldn't be angry. But all that time, every time you see them, like, hey, babe, I'm about to go out for a work thing. I'll see you later. She's like, hey, I want to go out and get a job here. How we can't do that because, I got to do X, Y. Like, all that starts to feed into that resentment thing. Mm-hmm. And then at some point, that ticking time bomb will explode. And then, like I said, once that happens, I think is hard,
like heavy duty hard,
because like I said, an example I gave, you start bringing up everything. Mm-hmm. That's when my mother, I didn't even know your mother ain't like me. I had no idea.
News to me. Wow.
That's why, dealing with these small men, and I'm good.
Yeah,
Lord,
choppy at the knees.
Good Lord.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that this was a thing. And then the blows start becoming lower and lower and lower and lower.
And you know what else gets a lot lower? Respect.
Yep. Because
it's in the pits at that point.
You hurt me, so I'm trying to hurt you. Hurt people. And resentment is, whoo.
Yeah. Listen, you wanna get a crash course in resentment. Beyonce has a song named Resentment. And it's pretty much nails it to a T. Even if you've ever seen her perform it live, it looks like she's a great performer, so it could just be all acting. Oh, but it comes from the pits of her soul, and you could tell that it comes from the pits of her soul. I will say this for me, and Eric, don't be discouraged by this, because we're gonna give you our final thoughts soon on what we think you should do with your scenario. But once I resent you, we're done. We're done. You can't come back from it.
Well, would say,
Rhonda.
I would say it's resentment. I would say too is a spectrum.
Yeah.
And I think there's a certain level to where there is a point of no return. Mm-hmm. But I think that there is little, like, it's like weeds. You got the little parts of it. Mm-hmm. And are you going to pick it out? Mm-hmm. Or are you going to let that thing keep growing and it's going to get in everything else? Because I think sometimes you can have resentment that is unjustified.
Yeah.
Because it's your own insecurity or your own jealousy or your own whatever. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes it's unjustified. I think you do have to take responsibility as a person if you agree to something that you agree to. Mm-hmm. I know that people can resent things that they agree to, but you should take some responsibility in that. If the person asks you, are you sure? Mm-hmm. Are you really okay with this? Like, and if you say yes, coming back and resenting me later for something that I asked you, and I'm like, oh, it's okay if you don't want to do this. Like, I'm sure, because I know some people do things because they know their partner want to do it, but they don't want to do it, and they don't want to let the person down and all that. And I think that there's that spectrum of resentment to where it starts to sprout, and you got to figure out what that thing is at certain points. Is it me? Am I tripping? Should I be resenting this person right at this moment? But I think once it gets to that point to where it's the point of where we're talking about, I don't think there's any return from that.
Yeah, for me personally, once I'm there, I'm there, and mine is never rooted in what you just talked about. It is being treated unfairly after being told that this is not okay or what you're doing is not cool, and you don't listen. You have shut me out, or I'm trying to express myself to you, and you've given no care, concern. I've jumped through hoops. I have given you chance after chance after chance, and I'm a benefit of the doubt, devil's advocate. Where did it come from? Literally, we just talked about this off camera. Like, I'm trying to stick it out to see maybe there's a root cause for this. And I'm just dealing with the symptom. I'm not dealing with the reasoning for why you're this way. So I have given grace, an immense amount of grace. By the time all of that happens, by the time resentment comes up in me, it's like, it's just a matter of how do we get away from this? How do we walk away from this relationship and move on from it? So I do think, and studies show that resentment can be recovered from. It does take a lot of work. It does take an extreme amount of intention and communication. And it also takes a lot of empathy, which is what I just talked about, trying to see why you are doing what you are doing and where is that coming from. Is it really just you being a jerk and an asshole who doesn't like me and doesn't care about me? Or is it because you never learned how to do this right? You never got into a relationship where this was a requirement of you, so you're mishandling it because you don't have the tools. If that is the case, I can work with that. I can dial back the resentment because this is something that you've now tapped into and you understand, like, this comes from my childhood, or this comes from my last relationship, or this comes from a really bad relationship that just tore me up mentally. If you can get to that place, I think, yes, resentment can absolutely be recovered from. But it's like, because I do all that work on the front end, by the time I feel resentment, I already know, like, the bridge is burned. Like, I've tried. I've tried very, very, very much. So I think, for Eric, it seems like maybe this much maybe. And I only say that because your wife is still in communication with you. She still talks to you. Y'all still sleep together, but I don't want to use that as a reason, because that could just be a flesh carnal need. She wants sex.
It's familiar.
She don't want to go have sex with a new person. So that's not necessarily an indication that she wants to stay. I think the biggest indication is when he said, we are working on ourselves individually in this time. She does not want to see anybody else in this time. So it sounds like through the separation, both of them are actually working on individual challenges that they have within themselves. And they are still referring to their relationship as our relationship. I think those are signs that with time, with good effort, with the right work, that she's willing. But when you combine resentment, lack of trust, and physical separation, that's a lot to come back from. But it doesn't sound like she's giving up on you. It doesn't. It sounds like the door is still open, cracked, but open nonetheless. The door is not locked and closed.
Yeah, I think what you said, the base thing is trust there. Mm-hmm. That's what it all comes down to, is a lack of trust. Even when it comes to resentment, a lot of times I trusted you with something, whether that's my feelings, my emotions, and I feel like that you broke my trust and that I lost something because I trusted you. And that's, I think, where resentment really festers, is I lost something because I trusted you.
Yeah.
Like, being hurt is just, losing trust in somebody, but feeling like you lost something, like I lost an opportunity with my sister because I trusted you.
Yep.
I lost an opportunity to do a career that I ultimately wanted to do because I trusted you. Like, that loss hits different. And that's what brings up the resentment, because I see you living your life fine.
Yeah.
And I'm in the position that I would not have been in had I not trusted you. And now I'm here. So hard to get back from.
Good God Almighty.
So hard to get back from.
Well, let's give Eric our final thoughts. He ends his write-in saying he is desperate to not lose his wife, and he wants some guidance on how not to do that.
All right, you go first.
I think you need to be really honest with her about the amount of work that you're willing to do, and also really be clear about what she needs to see from you, and know that you can commit to that and do it consistently without failure. Like, even around like whatever these impossibly high expectations she has of you, you all need to talk through what that is. Like, if it's something that she feels like she can't come down from, if that's the expectation, you need to be honest with yourselves. Like, can I really meet that? Am I desperate enough to meet this very impossibly high expectation, as you worded it? But I think you just really show and prove. It's not about lip service at this time. Your marriage is basically on life support. You are in separation and physically living separate. So if you are desperate not to lose her, I just think you have to do a lot of work to come back from it, but also be honest about if you can truly do that work. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. We try to always give really positive advice, but based on everything that you've written, it feels like that may not even be an option to you. So consider the fact that it might not be, and do what you have to do to recover from that on your own, because
Yeah.
it just may be at a point where you can't get it back, and now you'll need to do work to heal from that you caused some things, but just in general, your relationship didn't work out. And that can be a really tough time because you're self-reflecting, and you can be super hard on yourself when you're doing that. You are already pretty hard on yourself,
Yeah.
probably justifiably in this scenario, but you were very hard on yourself. So if you can't get your marriage back, trust me, that's only going to worsen, and you need to have the right resources and tools around you to recover from that. And also, both of y'all need that. So if you aren't in therapy, if you're not talking to someone right now, a trusted source, a professional source that's not like parents and friends, you should definitely have that as well. So that's my 2 cents.
Great advice. My 2 cents is, I think whenever you're in a relationship, you have kind of 2 separate needs that you're trying to meet. Mm-hmm. You have the things that are specific to your partner, and you have just general things that make you a good person, mm-hmm. and are skill sets that have you operate, well in a lot of different relationships in your life. Mm-hmm. When it comes to certain things, doing things that's person specific, that's just learning your person, what's needed. I like the towels this way. I like, the couch to look this way. I like this organized like this. These are things that universally aren't, mm-hmm. necessary, but it's specific to your person. And for you, a lot of times when you're in that situation and that's the thing that a person is asking you to fix, mm-hmm. it's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. And it's really about, are you willing to make that adjustment for your partner? But sometimes you deal with things to where the things that they're asking you to do, although they would improve your relationship, it just improves you as a person. Mm-hmm. So it goes back to what I said. It's not something that you're doing to repair the relationship. It's something that you're doing just to be a better person.
Yeah.
So I say that to say is that the work doesn't stop. I see a lot of times when men mess up or they get in certain situations, they're like, I feel like I did everything I possibly could. How much longer do I have to do this? No, you being honest and open and being a better communicator has nothing to do with your relationship. You just need to be better at this.
Yes.
Just in general.
Yep.
So the work doesn't stop because it's not based off of your relationship with your wife or the person that you with. Mm-hmm. It's based off of you just becoming a better person. Mm-hmm. So as much as you can improve, you should continue to try to improve. And there is no timeline on your improvement.
Yeah. Nope, it's not.
So you shouldn't look at it as like, how much work do I need to put in? What the things you need to work on and get better at, keep doing it. Mm-hmm. Regardless of if she accepts you back or not.
Yeah.
Keep doing it. Mm-hmm. Keep being better. Try to learn ways to have empathy and be a better communicator, mm-hmm. and try to see things from other people's perspectives. Like, these are all life skills that just make you a better human.
Yeah.
Not just a better partner.
Agreed.
So I would say, as on top of what Rhonda already said, is don't put a time limit on this. Focus on just trying to be a better person. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times people who are good people, their actions show it, and then other people can see their actions. Mm-hmm. So if you work on being a better person, she'll see it.
Yeah.
Trust me. She'll see it.
She'll see it. She'll feel it.
She'll feel it. Now, what her mindset would be to taking you back, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But that's the way to do it. Mm-hmm. It's not the performative, I did this. Because a lot of times we mess up or we do things, we want the instant reaction. When we mess up, we want the instant forgiveness, right? Mm-hmm. It makes us feel better, because sitting with the feeling of regret or guilt sucks.
Yeah.
And it hurts.
Yeah.
So whenever we do mess up, we want to instantly be like, I forgive you. You're good. It's okay. Mm-hmm. You're fine. And it's like, it doesn't happen like that.
It doesn't.
And then sometimes we go above and beyond in thinking that just because we did X amount wrong, if we do the same amount right, that it's going to negate it.
Right.
And it's like,
no.
Wash
it away.
It's going to wash it. No, it doesn't work like that. Mm-mm. A lot of times you do things in your relationship that once you do it, it takes so much time to get back up to that point. It could take 3 years, 5 years, 6 years to get right back at the point you were a year in the relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, because listen, being accountable is great, and you should be that way. Taking effort to work on what you messed up on that you have to now be held accountable for is also great. hand claps, kudos. Those are things that you should do, like you said, to be a better person. But those two things combined does not mean that the person who was on the receiving end of all of those bad things should take you back. It just doesn't work out that way. So that's another thing. Like, just because you are saying I messed up, and just because you're doing the work to get it back, it is not an automatic, she got to take me back. I said sorry, I'm being accountable, and I'm doing the work to make myself a better person. She could still not want to be with you. She still has that choice. And so think about that when you are in a position to do better up front. Do better up front. Because trying to get it back off the back end, like Dre said, that one day, that one decision, that it could take years to recover from it. Just because you didn't think like, I could have did better up front. You could have. But now here we are. And it usually takes a lot more than one day and one decision. But yeah, it's not an automatic. You hit the nail on the head. It's just not. It's not an automatic recovery. But Eric, we hope we were able to help you. Best of wishes to you and to your wife. Whatever is supposed to happen will happen. And you and her have to be really okay with that. So thank you for writing into us. And thank you all for tuning into another episode of Real Love Scenario. We hope that you found something really beneficial from this episode. Remember, you can write into us. Go to the website, relationshiprestored.com, click the contact button and write into our show or any of the shows on the network. And be sure to like and subscribe everywhere. Leave us a review. You know all the rules. If you don't, you just heard them from me first. Lastly, follow us on social media. I'm at Ronnie Cakes.
That is Dre Smith.
And at Relationship Restored. We'll see you next time.
Peace.